morning. For those of you who don't know, my name is Maya Karen. I run a fashion blog called Classically Kept. It does feature luxury, contemporary, and how to style, and now natural hair care. So if you are into any of those things, please consider subscribing to my channel. That way you will never miss a video. So today we are going to talk about another luxury company and their impact report, or another luxury resale company by the name of Vestiaire Collective. I do want to go over 3 points in their report, basically just talking about what's selling, what's kind of resurfacing, and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the very first point that is made in their impact report is that when it comes to vintage luxury, right? It has always been popular, but now it's gaining back its popularity. So in the year of 2022, keep that in mind, this is an impact report for 2022. So they had 55 million clicks on vintage items, or their vintage category, and then they broke it down a little bit more, and they said the number one thing that people were looking for when it came to vintage was handbags. And that very much makes sense right now. People are talking about inflation, people are talking about recession, people are talking about how other people are making more, I guess you could say, practical choices when it comes to luxury and just spending their money. Also, why this makes sense is we do have the whole quiet luxury thing still going on, but also this makes sense because when it comes to vintage, people will often, or you often hear people say that they feel as though that vintage pieces, and let me go ahead and say this, vintage is anything considered 15 years or older. They feel as though that vintage pieces are made with better quality and better craftsmanship. I will give you the perfect example, and you should know what I'm getting ready to talk about: the Chanel Classic Flap. We all are very aware of the ridiculous price increases of Chanel, right? A lot of people had said now they're going to be shopping for vintage Chanel for pricing, but also because of the quality and the craftsmanship. You will hear a lot of people in the luxury realm talk about a classic Chanel flap that was crafted or made in, like, let's say 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, as opposed to the early 2000s and the 1990s. You will hear them talk about how it is of better quality. I will give you one specific example. If you did not know, when the bag first came out, or when it first debuted, or when people were talking about when it was vintage and when it was actually quality, the hardware was actually gold plated. It is not anymore. The other thing is that we are very much in the early 2000s, in the 90s era, and we will talk about one of those items when we start talking about what they're actually seeing an uptick in looks searches and what people are buying, okay? But that's the first thing. We had 55 million clicks on vintage pieces, and then of course, what was the very first thing, or the number one thing? It's going to be handbags. Next, in the impact report, they talked about their most desired brands, or their most popular brands. They did break this down into 2 categories. So the first one is going to be designer. Number 1 is going to be Moncler. I am actually not surprised at this at all. David loves Moncler. He has a couple of vests and a couple of t-shirts, but this makes sense to me because we're still in this realm of quiet luxury, and Moncler is just that. They have the little patch right here. Now on David's t-shirts, it does like have like that Moncler around the bottom, but when I think of Moncler, I think very much of like ski, like après ski, and just like very sophisticated, very classic pieces. I have heard great things about Moncler. I do not have a jacket myself. I don't have a jacket myself, but I did wear one of David's Moncler vests at one of Aiden's games. When I tell you I was warm and cozy, I was warm and cozy. It didn't even matter that my arms weren't out, but my chest and my neck were covered, and I was cozy. So I'm pretty sure they do live up to their name. Number 2 is going to be Jacquemus, or Jacquemus, however you pronounce it. We do know, or if you did not know, he did have his recent, not debut, but he did have his recent show at like one of the like most famous places. I believe it was over in France somewhere. I watched the show. Some of the pieces were beautiful. Some of them were a little iffy, giving side eye to, were a little iffy for me, a little too much being revealed. But he has amassed a cult following, so I definitely understand that. I'll go ahead and put the rest of them up here. Really, the only one that I have not heard of personally is the Zadig and Voltaire. I will look that up and see what type of aesthetic they have, but those are going to be considered the designer brands. The luxury brands, let's put that up here. Scoot over a little bit. This should come to no surprise of anyone, especially if you are in the luxury realm. Although we keep talking about it, you keep hearing about all of the complaints about it. Number 1 is Chanel. We all know this. We all know it's classic. We all know it's timeless. We all know the prices are going to keep rising and we're going to keep purchasing. Although you keep hearing about the complaints about the quality and the terrible customer service, I am not surprised that Chanel is number one. What I am surprised, and I believe it's number 8, is Balenciaga. You guys know the beginning of the year when I did my fashion report, we all know what happened with Balenciaga. On this channel, we will not be supporting. I'm very, very, very surprised that it even made the top 10, okay? So now let's talk about the best performers. So of course, this is going to be what is being looked at, what is being clicked on, and what is being purchased. Number 1, again, if you are into fashion, you are going to be as surprised as when I was surprised when I started reading the report. But this search and this purchase was actually up by 15%. I didn't even know we are still doing this and still buying these things. I have not seen this particular item plastered all over my Instagram and YouTube in a couple of years. But the number one is going to be the Gucci belt, okay? I did have a Gucci Marmont. I believe it was like their rose pink one. I did sell that. That was back in like 2017 when I was in Indiana on an assignment. But the Gucci belt, I have not seen a Gucci belt in years, like years. It used to be you would hop on Instagram and you would see it, like every single outfit, every single fashion girl, every single normal girl, every single girl with a little bit extra change had this belt. They had it in pink, they had it in blue, they had it in yellow, they had it in green, they had it in black, they had it in the extra skinny, they had it in the really thick, they had it in the medium, and it was worn with everything. Not particularly my favorite. I was just very surprised when I saw the uptick in this one, okay? The next one is going to be the Louis Vuitton Speedy, and since the photo is showing a mini, I'm going to assume that it is a mini, and it is up by 22%. This makes sense because what I was talking about earlier when it comes to like the early 2000s and the 90s fashion, the Speedy was very, 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 very popular. I mean, we're talking about the likes of Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton, right? With the Juicy Couture on the booty and all of that. Whatever they wore is what was popular. This makes sense because, like I said, we are back in the 90s, but also if you did not know, it's escaping me, Pharrell. He is the creative director now for Louis Vuitton Men's, and he did debut his first show, and it did exceptionally well. And he did debut a lot of Louis Vuitton Speedies. I myself particularly care for the Alma. If I were to ever buy something from Louis Vuitton, it would be a mini Alma. It would be a mini Alma or a BB, or it would be the Capucine. I think both of those bags are beautiful. The next one is going to be a Moncler classic coat. And remember what we were talking about, the most popular brands when it came to this particular company. Number 1 was Moncler when it came to the designer brands. This makes sense, and the search has been up by 51%. This makes sense again because we are still in this realm of quiet luxury, and Moncler is just that. As I said, David does have a couple of t-shirts at like the bottom where like the writing is huge, but when you go on their website, you will see that their core pieces are really not that flashy. They have their logo right here or like right here at the bottom of the vest, but they don't have like a whole bunch of logo mania going on. Next was I was also very surprised with, I know a lot of people will know what I'm talking about when we also had this craze, but I rarely see them anymore. And I probably don't I live in Charlotte, you know, we have arrived, but at the same time, this is not New York, this is not Miami, this is not California. So I don't see them as much anymore, but it is going to be Christian Louboutin heels. The search for them in 2022 actually went up by 10%. I am probably the exception to this rule. I still wear mine. I have, I believe, 5 pair. I still wear mine. The ones that I do have are comfortable. You will often hear people talk about Christian Louboutin heels are not comfortable. And I would probably say that has attributed to why a lot of people don't wear them. Even Christian Louboutin himself has said that he is an artist. He makes shoes to be beautiful. He does not make them to be comfortable. I have not bought a pair of Christian Louboutins, I would probably say since 2018, 2019. So I can't attest to whether or not he has changed that idea or changed his mind about that. I do know that I do have one pair. I got it in Florida at the Galleria, and the man was actually kind enough to actually insert some insoles, and those are probably the most comfortable pair that I have. Not a shoe that you can wear all day. Definitely a lot of his shoes are sit and be cute shoes, or I call them to the car, to the table, back to the car shoes. And as I said, the ones that I have are pretty comfortable, but a lot of his shoes, you will hear a lot of people, especially his boots, and especially the sockets, because of that high pitch, are very, very, very uncomfortable. I did get a pair from his nude collection, the Ariza. Those are actually quite comfortable as well. So it went up by 10%. Jewelry, we have the Hermes Click Clack bracelet, or just the Click H bracelet. It has gone up by 10%. I have tried on a Click Clack bracelet. I was in the Hermes store in, I believe it wasn't Phipps Plaza, but it was somewhere in Atlanta, in that area. It didn't really do it for me. It does come in it comes in so many colors: black, white, yellow. I mean, it really does run the gamut. And then I do know they have like limited edition, like printed ones. It's just not something that I'm into. I do have my tennis bracelets. You guys know that I love to focus on earrings. So for me, the Click Clack bracelet or the Click H bracelet, not really my thing, but it has gone up 10%. And then the last one is going to be the Cartier Tank watch. Of course, the picture is right here. And again, when it comes to watches, we are still very much in the craze of the quiet luxury, and why this is actually making a comeback. If you know, you know; you don't, you don't. It's kind of the exact same thing when I gave the example of the Dior Ever bag. The emblem or the logo of Dior is not plastered all over that bag. That bag is discontinued, but if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. That was really the allure for me when I was carrying the bag. I had the small, I no longer carry it. It's in beautiful condition, but it's just a very, very well made bag, but it's very heavy. Okay, that was up by a whopping 57%. And again, we can, we can say that a lot of that is coming from the quiet luxury trend. Okay, and then lastly, let's quickly go over their 3 most exceptional sales. And these blew my mind when I saw them. So the very first one is going to be a collaboration between Louis Vuitton and Nike with the Air Force, and then they were designed by Virgil Abloh. If you don't know, he has passed away. Typically, you will see a lot of this when it comes to like art. Typically, when an artist passed away, or even sometimes like a musician like Michael Jackson or Bob Marley, their not book of business, but their catalog, the amount or their actual like worth triples, doubles, 10 times. We all know what I'm referring to. So these shoes spent 12 days on Vestiaire Collective, and then they sold for $11,500. Mind-blowing. I think at the height, they were being sold for, I want to say maybe close to $1,000, probably in like that $575, maybe like $850 range. Okay, the next one is going to be from Christian Dior, their fall 2000 collection. It was made so famous by Carrie Bradshaw. We all know Sex and the City. It is going to be the newspaper dress by John Galliano. It spent 5 days online, and it was sold for $14,900. And the last exceptional sale is going to be, of course, none other than a very, very, very special Birkin. It is even in a special size, which is the 20. It spent 182 days online, and it sold for a whopping $158,000. It was created in 2019 for VIP clients. Now, this is actually interesting because the Himalayan Birkin, and I believe Kim Kardashian has one, the Himalayan Birkin, which is noted to be the best selling or the most expensive one that was sold. The Himalayan Birkin, I believe, sold for around $230,000. Okay, so that's all that I have for you guys today. Let me know in the comments what you think of these reports. Although I do love the fashion aspect and doing the hauls and doing, what's new and things like that, I also love the analytics and the logistics behind it. I just find this stuff so interesting. Let me know what you think about the rise of the Gucci belt. I just want to remind you, here on YouTube, I do upload videos every Wednesday and Thursday, every Wednesday and Sunday. And of course, right here, I'll put my Instagram handle. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, you guys. Bye.